Whenever I travel, I always wish that I could have a local foodie give me recommendations on where to eat. I want to avoid the overpriced tourist traps peddled by social media and go directly to the places where the locals go and eat food that people actually crave. And then I realized, here in Singapore, I am that local. Hello online people, I'm Eldrick, I'm a Singaporean home cook and I make food videos online. And here are the top 5 places that I'll bring you to if you were visiting Singapore in 2024. And if we were friends. If we weren't friends, I'll just tell you Lau Pa Sat or Marina Bay Sands or something. If you're wondering if any of these recommendations are sponsored or if I'm getting any kind of kickback from recommending these places, fret not, I don't have enough subscribers to be sponsored. That is really not something you should be advertising, Eldrick. We are jumping straight into it with chicken rice. Our country's pride and glory. It is actually pretty difficult to find bad chicken rice in Singapore. Because if your chicken rice is bad, you won't make rent long enough for people to find you in Singapore. Thank you, capitalism. If you want a safe bet, you can go with household names like Buntong Ki or Wee Nam Ki. But your Singaporean friend would bring you to Katong. In the basement of Katong Shopping Centre lies allegedly one of the best chicken rice in Singapore. It has been a while since I last had this, so I'm not sure if it's still as good. Let's head on down to check it out. It's been a minute since I last came here, but this is what many Singaporeans would consider the best chicken rice in Singapore. I'll tell you why in a while, let me eat first. This is the best because it's a chicken rice lover's chicken rice. Like they really understand what is good chicken rice. The chicken is cooked so well, like if I show you a piece of the breast meat right now, you see how it's shining with juice. This is done by cooking the chicken at a controlled temperature, relatively low, so that you cook the chicken through, but not cause the protein to tighten up so much that it squeezes out of the moisture. And the next thing, this might be intimidating for some of y'all, but good chicken rice, right? The meat is served cold. It almost has like a sashimi quality to it. There's 2 reasons for this. One is that the chicken cannot be kept warm or reheated. Because of how delicately this chicken is cooked, like cooking it further will just make it tighter and not as tender already. And 2, when it cools down, the chicken fat is allowed to gelatinize back into aspic. This is something only great chicken rice have. That shiny, smooth, like almost slimy texture to it that makes the chicken meat like slide in. I could go on praising like a ton of things, but we have more recommendations to get to. So I'll say their biggest hit is something I mentioned earlier. They really understand what is good chicken rice. And for people who have eaten 200, 300, 400 plates of chicken rice, you know that chicken rice will give you that appetizing rush. The feeling like you can keep eating forever. And that is counted best with a homemade soup like this. And their homemade achar. These 2 sides to accompany that appetizing umami that is chicken rice is such an experience. This soup is free, by the way, and it's a quality soup. Like I just finished the ramen series, so you can see this sort of wrinkles on the surface. This is gelatinized fat. The fat in the soup comes into contact with the cool air, and then it sort of semi-solidifies, gelatinized on the surface of the soup. That's how you know they put proper ingredients into the soup, and this is not just like some soy sauce based nonsense. There's so much in peanuts. Jesus. There's chicken feet too. I haven't even tried the achar. These are sweet pickles and it goes fabulously. I really have more hits to say, but we really have to end it here. Perhaps next time when I start a series on chicken rice, or a second series on chicken rice rather. Let's go to the next place. Next, we are moving on to Hougang to have some oyster omelette. Oyster omelette, or otian, is a dish where oysters are fried with eggs and a starchy batter in order to create an omelette that is both mochi in the middle and crispy on the outside. Is it culturally significant to the Singapore people? And not really. But unlike your messages to your ex, not everything has to be an essay. Let's get it, guys. I've been wanting to come back here for so long. You can see the crispy bits, you can see the gooey bits, which is really what it's all about in oyster omelette, right? And the size of the oyster, I can't get over it. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, an easy recommendation. Easy. Perhaps the thing that I like the most about oyster omelette is when you can taste the oyster in the egg. Too many oyster omelettes that I've tried are just fried egg with oysters. There are some charred bits here and there. The coriander is fried with the oyster omelette, so it's not so rough. But if you don't like oysters, don't come here. I have met a lot of fake oyster omelette lovers that say they love oyster omelette, but actually they don't eat the oysters. You're just a fried egg lover. But this is a proper oyster omelette. Really delicious. On to the next one. The oyster omelette made the list because it's one of the most impressive things that I've eaten last year. And if you're new to the channel, I eat around the island a lot, featuring a new place every Monday 9 PM. But I digress. Speaking of impressive things that I've eaten last year, we are moving to Geylang, the red light district of Singapore, to have some Hokkien mee. Hokkien mee is a noodle dish where noodles are fried with a prawn stock. The noodles soak up all of the stock and are then emulsified with lard. It's kinda like a wok fried noodle paella. It's hard to describe really, so let me just show you. Back here at Swee Guan. If you're not new to this channel, you will know that I spent 3 months just searching for the best version of this dish, and this was the one that I decided was the best. As for why it's the best, give me a second, let me revise a bit. It's because it's so freaking aggressive. 2 key points. One, they are still using charcoal to cook it, so the heat is very high, and as a result of that and their technique, there are a lot of burnt bits in the noodles itself, which gives it this like smoky flavor. If that intimidates you, that's why I say it's very aggressive. By the way, if you're generally scared of eating burnt stuff, your body is capable of breaking it down a moderate amount, so it's not exactly carcinogenic. But if you're like gulping down loaves of burnt bread, then good luck to you. Anyway, I digress. That burnt smokiness really adds a lot to this dish. But the second reason is something I actually missed out in my first review. It is very aggressive in terms of the amount of lard. There is so much lard being emulsified here with the noodles. So with the starch that's being released with the noodles when it cooks down, right, the lard hides itself in it. This would be very apparent if you bought this as takeaway. You'll realize that the whole wrapper is drenched in fat. It's not obvious while the noodle is hot, but when the noodle cools down, it's very obvious. Still as good as I remembered. GG, go next. Next, we are moving on to a proper hidden gem to have some wanton mee or dumpling noodles. This place called Laifaba in Bukit Batok. You might notice that this place is deep in an industrial estate, a place where people go to work or get their cars fixed. But that's what you sign up for at the start of the video, right? A place where the locals go. If you can spot a single non-Singaporean customer later, I'll pay for your flight ticket to Singapore. Ready? Let's get it. Oh, how nice it is to have wanton mee with actual char siu. Like the usual wanton mee char siu can almost not be considered char siu compared to this. And the noodle texture also, I kind of suspect that you all can tell the texture even by looking at it from the screen. Like you see how the noodle wiggles. Anyway. If I ever do a best wanton mee series, I'm definitely coming back here. The taste and texture of the noodles is just so on point. The amount of lard flavor is crazy. I'm almost finishing the noodles and I haven't touched the char siu or the egg yet. Char siu? Come on. With each mouthful, you get the leanness of the first layer, and then that melty fattiness of the second layer, and then this seemingly burnt part on the top, which you might think is burnt meat, but it's not that easy to burn meat in an oven. So these burnt parts are actually the glaze. So something like a dark soy sauce, a very thick dark soy sauce that they use to glaze the meat, that is what is burning. And then you get this like really deep caramel flavor that is... This is char siu. And it also comes with a soup, which, look at the opaqueness of this soup. They actually put in ingredients into it. Whereas usually wanton mee soups are pretty garbage. This is kind of similar to Katong's chicken rice, in the sense that a good soup, right, to accompany the meal is so underrated. Good wanton mee. But let's move on to our final destination. Before we move on to the next place, I have with me the honorary mention of this video. The most popular fast food item in all of Singapore, the McSpicy. This is the most culturally significant fast food item in Singapore's history, with its own memes and lore. However, I'm obliged to warn you that this is not for those with a delicate stomach. A straightforward spicy chicken sandwich with a mayonnaise-based sauce. I'm not gonna rave too much about a fast food item with the context of the other dishes in this video, but I think it's a noteworthy mention if you want to do a comprehensive food tour in Singapore. Food that the locals crave, remember? And now, for the last recommendation of the video, we are headed to Alexandra to find one Keng seafood. I mean, of course we have to include a zi char place in the list. It is where about 90% of celebratory family dinners are held. Zi char directly translates to cook fry. It is a restaurant concept where you order common home-cooked communal dishes to be shared in a group setting. This kind of establishment is very common in Southeast Asia. And Keng is probably one of the highest profile zi char on the island. Why? I'm not sure either. But let's find out with their signature dishes. We are now at Keng Seafood. Okay, let's give the moonlight hor fun a go. The egg has been scrambled and cooked in already. No real signs of raw egg anymore. Let's try it. Wow. I expected the egginess, obviously, with the raw egg. The way it enriches a dish much like carbonara, but this was more than that, which I have to suspect is from the lard. The whole dish is just so impossibly decadent. I would have appreciated it more if the noodles were a little bit more burnt. These noodles are still very clean, but overall still really delicious. Let's move on to the cereal prawns. So for those of you new to the dish, this is a deep fried prawn dish that combines oats, usually instant oats, with a lot of butter. The usual kind, they don't peel the prawns for you, but here they do. And considering this is the size of the peeled prawn, this must have been some pretty big prawns, like 21, 30. Anyway. The texture of the prawn is crazy. It's so firm and bouncy, which usually suggests that the prawns are very fresh. But I think it has to do with a process. I heard of this before. This is the same thing they do to hakkaos, where I think they wash the prawns with salted water, and that causes the meat to firm up. I'm not sure. I'm skeptical even. But it gives the prawns such a bouncy, cute texture to it. Next, we have the clay pot pig liver. Now this is an incredibly skilled dish, because pig liver is an off-cut. It smells, the texture is hard to manage, that's why it's cheap. So to cook it, you need to deal with these 2 points. The first point, the smell, that high iron smell, you have to counter it with spring onions and raw onion in the correct proportion so as to not overpower it. The texture comes down to cooking. Cook too little and it's raw. Cook too much and it gets chalky and grainy. So let's see how they fare. What the? That's why this is their signature. This is the best example of velveting that I've ever come across. Velveting is a process in which meat is coated in a starch solution. So you mix in some starch and water with the meat such that each slice of meat gets coated with a thin layer of starch. And what that starch does during cooking is protect the meat and keep all the moisture within the meat. So while it's being cooked through, the moisture does not escape and the meat remains tender. I almost want to say that this is one of the best cooked pork liver I had. Anyway, all of this is to say that you can really tell the skill level of the chefs when you try all these dishes. And as long as the skill level is there, it doesn't matter what you order from their list of 30, 40 menu items. Yeah, I'll pass you all back to At Home Eldrick. Oh, I forgot to mention, you can also order chili crabs at an establishment like this. It seems like this is a popular dish for tourists, but just between you and me, we Singaporeans don't care for it too much. It's expensive, troublesome to eat, and honestly doesn't taste all that great. Pepper crabs or salted egg crabs are way better. We do like the mantou or fried bread that comes with it though. Anyway, those are my 5 recommendations for places to eat if you are visiting Singapore in 2024. All of the details of the places we visited are in the video description, along with the Google Maps links. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!